Whips and Paint Life with Jay. Thank you for tuning in to my channel. This is the cut in and blend video. Okay, this is the first coat of base, and on this coat I normally would just focus on covering the red and the prime spots. So that's basically what I'll be doing. I'm basing the red door so it's covered, and then I would actually spray some base coat over the prime down spots on the quarter and on that front door, and I would just focus on covering those areas in order to get it covered and bring it closer to the actual color of the vehicle. And then once I have it covered enough, then I would focus on my blend. So as you can see, I'm actually doing the cut in as well as the outside of the door as well. So the cut in is the internal port of the door, and I'm doing both at the same time because there wasn't any cut in on the actual door jamb of the vehicle. So I decided to just hang the door and do the inner and outer portion at the same time, basically to save time versus painting the inside of the door and then coming back, allowing it the time to dry, and then putting it on, and then continuing to finish on the outside of the vehicle. I just chose to do it all at once for the sake of time, and also because this particular job ended up taking longer for it to get ready as far as the bodywork portion, so it took a little longer than expected. So I end up choosing this route to save time. Now as I base this prime spot, I'm pretty much just focusing on covering the primer, and that's to bring the prime spots closer to the color of the vehicle. And as I do the later coats of base, then I would actually stretch out my blend. But right now, I'm just focused on covering the prime spots. As you can see, the base coat is somewhat transparent, so I'll probably have to do maybe 2 to 3 more coats on this particular base. Once again, I'm using even coats basically, but each coat I'm spraying wet coats. Me personally, I don't shoot or spray metallic dry. I spray my metallics wet, and I allow the metallics to flow out versus me dry spraying metallics. But I pretty much keep an even wet coat, And depending on the temp, um, that even wet coat, I end up walking off maybe 5 to 10 minutes. You know, you will know when it's dry. You know, because it'll be smooth, and uh, if you're not sure it's dry, then maybe you wait a few more minutes. But I normally keep an even coat, and I do the entire process up into the blend portion. Now I'm doing my actual blend. And one tip I can give you guys is once you actually have your base covered over the prime spots and on the other panels, um, if you're needing to do a real fine blend, you can actually use some DVC 500 or some um, binder, or maybe even some Intercoat clear if it's one of those difficult colors. And what you do is you take the paint that you already have reduced, and let's say if you have 4 ounces that you can cut, or maybe 2 ounces, then you can mix up, depending on the ratio of the binder or the DVC 500. Well, the DVC 500 is 1 to 1, so if I want to mix up or cut 2 ounces of the base, then I would actually pour 1 part or 1 ounce of the DVC 500, and then another ounce of reducer, which equals 2 ounces reduced of the DVC 500, and then I would put my 2 ounces of already reduced paint in it, and it'll be cut. And then that's what you use to blend out further past your actual base that you already sprayed. Like on the front of that door, that front door, if I wanted to go past that point, I would use some cut DVC, where you won't really, it makes it transparent to the point where you won't really be able to really see what a blend is. But if I left it like it is, it may be more possible that you can see the edge of the blend, basically, is what I'm saying. So if I left that like you see it in that, with that light hitting it, if I left it like that, it probably could fly since it's a silver gray, but a person with a good eye would be able to see it. So normally I would cut the base and then I would stretch it. Just a tip. Yeah, my favorite part of the painting is clear coat, the finish. And normally most people say that they open their fluids all the way up, but I actually do not open my fluids all the way up, because it varies according to painters, each individual person, and their method and their delivery on how they spray. But I personally like to spray up close, so I would rather not have my fluids opened all the way up while I'm spraying up close. And another thing is, if I don't have my air pressure high enough to break up that clear, then I would end up with runs, kind of more peely surface. So I normally keep mine maybe 3.5 open with this particular gun, or something to that effect. And I guess the fan also varies on how I want the finish to look. but normally my fan is not all the way open either. Therefore, I may wind it in one full turn or two turns, and I kind of go from there. That's why you see that test panel off to the left. I normally test panel, but when I'm locked in on my settings, I don't have to actually test panel because I just look at the fan in the air and hear the pressure with my ears, and I kind of have the idea of how it's gonna lay down. So, as long as that first coat goes on pretty good, you'll be good to go when you get to the second coat. And the only time I actually, depending on the job, if I actually have like trash that I know is gonna be a problem, then I may go ahead and do a third coat. But if my second coat looks good, I won't do a third coat because it takes more time for the three coats to cure, and I only do it if I have to, unless it's that kind of job. If it's that kind of job, I'll go ahead and do three coats, especially if I know it's gonna need color sand and buff and all that. Then I'll go ahead and do three coats. But normally I would just do two coats. It depends on the clear I'm using. If I'm using a high solids clear, then two coats should be good. If I'm going for that type of finish where it's gonna be color sand and buff to glass and all that, then I'll do three coats, or even sometime sand it down and flow coat it. But right now, I think I did good enough to get it by with two coats. As I spray and you take a look at my fan, you can almost tell that I don't have my fluids opened all the way up. And if you actually spray with an iWater LPH 400, you also can tell that my fan is not all the way open. I normally keep a distance away from the panel, probably roughly around 6 inches, sometimes even closer. It depends on my fluid settings and my fan and my pressure. But usually I'm about 6 inches away from the panel. you can see, the finish turned out pretty good. I only needed 2 coats of clear. With the light trash, I could actually get away with color sanding with 2000 and doing above. And you see that the blend isn't visible